You seen what these companies are spending in training budgets?
It's a lot.
It's in the millions of dollars to train these models. And
wouldn't Copilot be safer though?
Copilot is a good option as long as you're trying to integrate it and use the AI with your Microsoft ecosystem.
Talking about AI last time, I have questions on Copilot. From my perspective, Copilot comes with the rest of the Microsoft Office suite. And when most businesses are used to using Microsoft Office, why would Copilot not be the obvious choice for everybody just to get used to using and using their businesses?
Well, Copilot would be a good choice. If you're integrating Copilot into Teams, into Outlook, into SharePoint, into OneDrive, into everything, right? Whether those apps are the clients that are on the workstations, they're on the web. For most, Copilot is a good option as long as you're trying to integrate it and use the AI with your Microsoft ecosystem. Where it's going to struggle is advanced use cases, right? So if you know, and even so, you can configure Copilot to use data sets that aren't necessarily SharePoint or OneDrive or whatever, but you're going to be limited, or they can become cumbersome to configure. You have to go into Power Automate or wherever, create agents and things like that just make it a little bit tougher to integrate, but it can be used. I think Copilot is good for rephrasing a document in Word, or heck, even generating a PowerPoint presentation. It can do a decent amount there. As long as you give it a good source document, it can do that. So it definitely has its value for sure.
Okay. All right. I mean, what are the competitors to what you would otherwise be using Copilot for? Why would anybody go with, you said editing a document, right? I would think Grammarly, right, might be a competitor for how you structure the words, or why would anybody then use a Grammarly over something like a Copilot?
Well, with a Copilot, it's built right into Word now, right? That's probably the real reason why that's the de facto choice.
Yeah.
It's right in Word, it's right in the right-hand pane. You write a document up and you don't like the way it sounds, or you want it to be more professional, less professional.
You just push a button right there,
You
right?
push it and you click that, and it's going to regenerate it. It can regenerate it in a way that is in maybe the theme or the format you're going for. I think that's one reason. If you wanted to use a Grammarly or any other, there's tons of those, right?
Sure. Yeah.
There's a ton of those add-ons, but you probably need to go get a subscription for it. You need to install the add-on into Word or into Office, and you need to learn how to use it. And Copilot just really lowers the bar for barrier to entry so low that of course you're going to use it if you can.
Well, so why would anybody use any other one then? I'm almost thinking of Copilot. How is it not just the de facto, everybody just goes to using it no matter what, because it's right there?
It is and it isn't. So, I think for business users that have Microsoft 365 licensing, and it's there. But with base Copilot, you're extremely limited. If you don't have that full Copilot license for Microsoft, you're really limited to interfacing with that current document. Once you get that Copilot license, now you're able to create agents. You're able to deploy applications, if you will, Copilot agents, bots, build bots, deploy bots, and do a lot more with Copilot to make it much more of an agentic solution, which is really the point. AI is great when it's integrated into your workflows and things like that. Copilot, what we'll call Copilot built into Office, is limited to that scope. Whereas agentic AI, you can use at any scope.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Like you could, if you had something you wanted to do. Like I've built agentic solutions lately that will open a web browser. They'll perform a task. They'll connect to something. They'll download data that you couldn't otherwise get.
Yeah.
Copilot's not going to help you with that.
Yeah.
And that's where it's different, is if your scope is Microsoft, is SharePoint, is Excel, is just there, Copilot can do a lot for you without having to know how to do it all, right? It just happens out of the box for you.
Wouldn't Copilot be safer though? And what I mean by that is, let's say I run a company that's got 20 employees in it, right? It's a services-based company. I'm collecting customer information in there. It could be a medical practice, so there's, HIPAA concerns in there, or it could be like an HR company, right? Or, outsourcing HR, so there could be some sensitive information coming in. Copilot looks at that already, right? Is there any danger of bringing in another AI into there to then also potentially be exposed to potentially sensitive information?
Yes, but that danger already existed when you signed up for Copilot. You've already either mitigated or accepted that risk, and you've deemed it's necessary or it's tolerable in order to improve your business practices. So while yes, now I think the main thing that you have to keep in mind when we talk about data, especially we start talking about regulated data and HIPAA or those types of things, we have to be very, very conscientious of what access we give to our users, what access we give to a model. This is where we have to evaluate our business agreements, make sure that we have the appropriate licensing for the products we're using. A lot of free AI out there, ChatGPT being one of them, any other one, Gemini, all of them.
Yep.
If you don't have whatever they want to call it, a pro plan or an enterprise plan, they can use your data
for training,
right?
Yeah.
So as long as you've licensed it appropriately and you aren't creating documents with HIPAA data, you're in better shape.
So if I have Copilot, so if I'm on Microsoft Word and I am doing something with HIPAA data in there, anyways, Microsoft already has the HIPAA data in the document, right?
Yes.
I click on Copilot, it's looking at that data. So you're saying that that danger already exists?
The danger already exists, yeah. You've already done it. When you have Copilot enabled and on for your organization, you've already exposed that data to some extent.
To some extent to Microsoft, right? But do they not already have access to that data by virtue of the fact that you're using their products with your data?
Yeah. I think that you have to, whenever you use a product, you have to understand the risk of that. I think when you use Google Chrome, you have opted into giving them access to your data that you use through the browser.
Yeah.
Hence why you get those really cool ads
that
are exactly what you're looking for.
You know me so well.
They're your best friend. So yes, of course. Heck, for that standpoint, you've given, if you use OpenOffice, you've given your data to whoever owns OpenOffice this week, right? And so I think that yes, but it's the changes are different now, right? The world is different, and the data. The model having access to data isn't really a good thing, but you have to take the appropriate precautions. So number one, you make sure that you aren't exfiltrating data. You have data loss prevention policies and procedures in there. But also you have done your appropriate due diligence before you set up a model with access to your data. So that means that you have your data ordered appropriately. That means that you have least privilege set up so that access is only granted to data that needs to have access to it. And really, before any organization implements a full Copilot rollout, they really need to look at their data structure and understand what data are they giving to Copilot. And I don't mean that from the standpoint of just the base small version of Copilot, because it does have guardrails. I mean the enterprise Copilot. You want to make sure that from the standpoint of your business security, your data security, that you only have the bare minimum the Copilot needs to do its job available to it. That might be locking it down to a single SharePoint library or to the same public knowledge base that your lowest tier of data classification employees have access to, or maybe a little bit higher tier, depends on what they need it for. Because you really don't want to accidentally leak information.
Well, and that's what I'm trying to, so let's go back to the example of I own a service-based company that has 20 employees, right? It almost kind of sounds like telling my employees, you need to be conscientious about what you put in there is the safeguard, right? Is there anything else I could be doing as a business owner to prevent any kind of, for lack of a better term, stupid tax, right? That my employees are going to cost me for putting sensitive data into an AI.
It depends. There is safeguards, and there's some safeguards built into the models themselves, right? And I've tested this in a non-business, so just in the base Copilot area. If you try to add a social security number, or you try to add what it believes to be HIPAA type data,
it'll recognize that.
It recognizes it, and it'll tell you, no, I'm not doing anything with this or something. It's not necessarily perfect, right? Because a social security number may come across as a phone number, right? I mean, it just depends, right? And so things can look different to the model, so it gets confused. But generally speaking, there are safeguards in place for that. They don't want that data. I know a lot of people probably think they do. They don't. They already have it. You know, I mean, like your social security number's not
give it to them in other ways anyway.
They've already got it. And so, but yeah, there's more safeguards, right? You can block the use of ChatGPT, or you can block the use of this or that or the other thing. But a lot of it really comes down to, like always, humans are always our weakest link in business and in cybersecurity, really. And so we do need to train our employees better, especially if, like, I have no issue with any kind of AI use and things like that, but we definitely have to be careful what we feed to the model, just in case, for many reasons. If you feed it, it's not even the data leakage. It's not Microsoft using your data for training. It's not any of that stuff. If you create a document based on privileged information, you have to be really careful when you distribute that document, because that information might be privileged, and now you're breaking least privilege by telling somebody something else that they shouldn't know. And that's really where the biggest risk is, I think, is actually an organizational security, is leaking it out. I'm not as concerned with people training the model on potentially HIPAA data, for the most part. I mean, obviously that's a risk, but
you're worried about the data leakage.
I'm worried about the data leakage, either internally or externally, because I could very well see you taking this 400-page summary from a company, having it distilled down into 3 pages. Looks good, send it off, and next thing you know, you realize there's information in there that shouldn't be in there, that shouldn't be public information, or shouldn't be used, that kind of stuff. And so that, I think, is the important piece, is just making sure you understand what goes into the document, just like how it's garbage in, garbage out, right? If you give it bad data, it's going to give you bad data.
Sensitive in, sensitive out.
Exactly. If you use sensitive data on the way in, even if it's not sensitive in the terms of a regulation, it might be sensitive to your organization.
Okay. So let's say I'm still owning this business, right? Instead of doing, what did I say, anything HIPAA related, I'm running a law firm now, right? I got 20 employees under me. Several of them are lawyers. Several are paralegals. I got a front office secretary or something, right? And I see, hey, they spend so much time reading documents. What if I have AI look at this sensitive document, summarize some things, show me some red flags? I'm going to save my paralegals, X amount of hours doing this, and that's going to save my lawyers Y amount of hours reviewing those kinds of things, right? If I were to do something like that, my first fear would be, is this okay with the data that I'm going to have the AI look at? So, where do I go from there? Do I have to put in policies in place first? Should I go look at different AIs? Do I have to talk to all the lawyers and ask them? I want to know how best to put AI into practice so that I don't get myself into trouble by doing something I don't know I'm not supposed to do.
Well, first step, asking a lawyer is probably always the best, right? They would read the terms and conditions. You could probably just send that down the hall.
We could switch it from lawyer to,
but let's.
It's just a good example, right? They read so many documents. AI can read documents faster, right? So.
Yeah, and I think that it is highly dependent. I think this goes back to, as far as the risk side of it, sure, there's always some level of risk. You always just make sure you've covered your bases by you're using a business plan, you've read the terms and conditions, you agree with those terms and conditions in terms of they're not using your data for training, and those types of things. And then what you would do is you would take over, you would take the data. The one thing that's hard about that scenario is AI wants to give you the answer you want.
Yes.
So if you lead the model into thinking that what you want, it might hallucinate a bit and give you the answer you're looking for, even, or maybe it'll twist the data to the answer you're looking for.
Yeah.
So that's where some of those agentic solutions come into play, where you need to define a little bit more
what it exactly
can
is
do,
you're
right?
yeah.
This is exactly what it will create a non-biased summary of this document that you give it. So that's something that I think you'd have to really be conscientious of from that standpoint, is making sure that it's only going to give you data that's real, that's legitimate, that's verified, and not some opinion.
Yeah.
Because there's times where you'll ask an AI one question, you'll rephrase it, and it'll give you a completely different answer.
Yeah.
And I think that's the important thing when it comes to that. So the actual risk there is getting bad data.
Okay.
Right? So your risk there is you gave it a brief that's 20 pages long, and it kicks back 2 paragraphs that are completely off base from what you're looking for. So I think when you're using it in that mindset, you actually have to define your output of what you're looking for. I need these items outlined.
Prompt engineering is what you're saying.
More
you
or
have
less,
to make sure that you're, instead of saying, hey, show me the red flags in this document, you have to say, you are this lawyer looking over this document. These are the red flags that I'm looking for. Please highlight these and show them to me in this format so that I can review them.
And you probably would even need some form of fine-tuning. So a standard Copilot is not going to work perfectly for that.
Yeah.
That's so specific. And that's the kind of the name of the game in AI in general is there is no one-size-fits-all approach.
Yeah.
A different model that is half the size or half the cost might be better than the best frontier model at one tiny little task.
Yeah.
Right? And so there's the frontier models, the Geminis and those guys, they're great.
Yeah.
But something that's trained specifically to do this one function might be better at that one function. And I think this is one of those cases where when you're doing inference on a legal document, while it could work with a standard model just fine, if you want an output that is consistent, you have to be very conscientious of the parameters that go into that kind of pipeline to get the output.
Yeah,
and that's the point.
How do I find that? As a business owner, right? You're saying, well, this very specific, really cool, tiny little model could be way better for 90% of these problems that are all stem from this one problem within your business, better than Gemini and ChatGPT and Copilot and all the names that you've heard of. How do I find that gem out there?
Well, it might even be those, but it's a configured variant of those, right? So with Azure AI Foundry or Gemini or Google's AI Studio, they call it, or OpenAI has one too, you can configure either a fine-tuned version of Gemini or a fine-tuned version of a model that's of GPT-5 or whatever else that is now configured to do the task you're looking for. So it might be just changing the temperature.
Yeah.
And when you change the temperature of a model, it gives you wildly different results. Either it's more creative, aka yes man, or it's less creative. These are the facts.
Yeah.
That might be more what you need to do in those situations. Not always looking for a different model, but it might be tweaking the parameters of the model you already have.
And do I do that? Let's say I run a plumbing supply store, right? And my employees struggle with these two things. And hey, if I just had an AI that can make sure this doesn't happen, then great. But all I know are pipes, right? Am I supposed to do that, or do I have to go hire somebody to go do that?
You probably need to hire somebody for that.
I mean,
and it's very different. It isn't even just normal IT, right? It's this weird world of there's the IT side of it, there's the infrastructure side of it, there's the programming side of it, there's the AI side of it.
Yeah.
There's a lot there, and then frankly, there's the trial and error side of it. It takes a little while to get it dialed into what you're looking for. So it depends on the problem too. That's the one main thing that I think a lot of businesses get wrong, or a lot of AI consultants, if you will, get wrong, is they don't necessarily help you understand what you can do, how you can get to your end goal.
Yeah.
Okay, I have this problem. Great. You've identified the problem. There's probably 4,000 different ways to get to a solution,
Yeah.
right? You know,
Yeah.
ranging from you fully automate it to you just keep doing it the way you've always done it, but do it better. And so I think that that's a huge area of hopefully growth for businesses, because AI has a lot of value in business, and I think that you could really automate a lot with AI, but you have to be conscientious of the fact that if you don't know how to get there, if you don't know what the end goal is of the problem, and you can't break it into its parts, it's going to be really hard to get there.
So how do I make that decision as that fictional business owner, right? How do I say, you know, this person, you know, I go onto a website and I see all these AI engineers that say, I could do this for you, I could consult for you, I could do this for you. How do I know he knows what he's doing versus this person, or that person?
It's a Wild West.
Yeah, that's what's scary about it, right?
Yeah, it is. I mean, hopefully you have a partner. Obviously, if somebody's has some level of accreditation with, you know, and on the Azure side, you'd think they'd have a better idea. But overall, it's a Wild West, and that's what makes it so cool. But also a little bit scary.
You can find some really cool things out there.
But you can spend a whole lot of money and not get a whole lot. I mean, have you seen what these companies are spending in training budgets?
It's a lot.
It's in the millions of dollars to train these models. And then, you know, regardless of what you pay in professional services costs and labor costs to have somebody design a solution for you, you're going to be paying per every API call.
Well, even then, I've been on the side of working for a company, a very large enterprise that provided an AI for me to do my job better, and it didn't really know what it was doing. And I spent more time trying to get the AI to the right answer than the AI giving me the right answer. And I knew what I needed to get to. The AI couldn't figure it out, right?
Yeah.
And it cost, I know, millions of dollars, to the point where they eventually had to shut it down because there was no ROI there.
Yeah.
Right?
Exactly. So that's where you have to be very, very direct with what you're looking for. You have to think about, okay, what is my end goal? If your end goal is to get this data in this box and this software, maybe AI isn't the right choice.
Yeah.
Right?
You just get a regular script for that.
You might just be able to script it. And so I think that's the big piece. I think a lot of people are using AI, and guilty, as we're using AI for things we don't need to.
Yeah.
Because it's fun. Because it's cool, it's new. But we don't have to.
Yeah.
All right. Normal REST API could fix that. But you know, I think there's a lot of areas where an AI is great. And as vision models get better and better, vision understanding or videos, you know, I think that would be it's going to be huge.
Okay. Yeah, I think in future videos we could talk. There's some interesting rabbit holes to jump down within that topic, but
there are, especially when it comes to vision models. Now that's where
I would be curious to talk about vision models.
I'm really interested to see over time, because vision models shouldn't be trained on copyrighted or works or, you know, data that's not owned.
Well,
but you know they're going to be.
Where else are they going to get information to be trained on, right?
Exactly.
You can go to Instagram
you want to start talking about that
shorts, right? But you're not going to.
Well, hence why, you know, LinkedIn or Facebook, Instagram, all of them have AI, and they all have terms and conditions in their settings now that are like, hey, we use your data for training.
Yeah.
And so you can turn that off on most of them, I think. But
most people aren't going to think about that, right?
And Facebook has a huge Facebook Meta, whatever you want to call it, has a huge model library. They have several models that are that way. And while they're not necessarily, I don't think Facebook has or Meta has any public-facing vision models. It'd be really interesting if they ever did.
Yeah, because they're pulling a lot of information into the vision model, right?
All of the information. Yeah, so definitely with vision models, it's a little bit different.
Yeah.
But vision models also enable some of those agentic AI solutions. Like when we're talking about, you know, controlling a web browser, you know, a computer using agent. Those are all really cool pieces and things that are out there, and really ways that maybe you couldn't use a traditional REST API to interact with this web page because it's antiquated or whatever else. But this, you can train a model that can click through and perform functions on a web page like a user. That has some applicability.
That has a
It's
lot
advanced.
of applicability. Yeah.
We're well beyond the reach of Copilot today.
Yeah.
But
I could use that, right? I mean, that's
somebody could use that.
That's like you telling me, hey, for X amount of dollars, I can give you an intern inside this computer who will then do these things for you.
This one job.
Yes.
You will give it a very specific set of instructions like you would an intern or a newly hired employee or something else. Like you're just training on. These are the exact steps you follow.
Yeah.
And then you can use an AI who can think in real time, document what they're doing.
And always keep working.
Yeah.